This meeting is now called to order. Powerful. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Khan,
Here.
Mrs. Shandy,
Here.
Mr. Wilburn,
Here.
Mrs. Yanez,
Here.
Mr. Salt.
Here. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Colonel Stallworth this evening.
Please rise with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight we have Timberview Middle School and Air Academy High School here for our board spotlight. If you all could stay after you're done, we'd love to shake your hands with the hands of the students from both schools and take a picture. So hang out until both schools are done, and then we've got our post hoc stuff. So first we have Timberview Middle School, Mr. Wilburn.
Timberview Middle School opened in 1987 and is the home of the Timberwolves. One teacher who opened the school still works at the school. It's the only D20 middle school with a cheer program. They're growing in diversity and now offer CTE, ESL, SSN, resource, etc. The Timberview band recently performed at the SEMA conference. Please welcome Principal Karina Bierman.
Hello. 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 Testing. Can you hear me? I just can't hear myself. Well, thank you guys for having us this evening. My name is Karina Bierman. I am the proud principal of Timberview Middle School. Tonight we are going to showcase for you our robotics program. We do have a short video made by our robotics and broadcasting teacher who could not be with us tonight to launch our presentation. And then we have 3 students here and Mrs. Hicks, who oversees our CTE program, to talk to you a little bit more and demonstrate the robots that they've made and some of the coursework that they've done. Before we jump into the video, I just wanted to share we launched Project Lead the Way Robotics 2 years ago. We now also have a robotics club who competed this year at several competitions in Denver. In our first year, we took 3rd place. We did not make it to nationals, but almost. It's our goal for next year. And between the 2 programs, we've raised about $200,000 in grants over 2 years. So we are super grateful for our community for donating to these programs and helping us launch them. And Jamin and the CTE folks have also been super helpful, but it's an awesome opportunity for our kids to get some hands-on real-world experience that will be the future of our workforce. So without further ado, I'm going to direct you to the video first of Mr. Fogel explaining a little bit about his work.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Fogel, and I'm the broadcasting and robotics teacher at Timberview Middle School. I started teaching in 2019 and taught 6th and 7th grade social studies for 3.5 years. 2 years ago, I started teaching broadcasting and robotics. We have a great broadcasting class where the students make our school's weekly video broadcast called Wolf TV. We actually make it right here in the studio that I am making this video right now.
Hello, Timberwolves. My name is Caleb. And I'm Bryce. And welcome to Wolf TV.
What's your favorite vacation you've ever been on?
Probably to London.
And what did you do?
We went to like Big Ben and the London Eye.
That's fun.
The other half of what I teach is robotics. This is a really fun class. Go! Two years ago, when I applied for the position, I talked with my principal, Mrs. Bierman, about adding robotics. I went to Project Lead the Way and was trained in robotics and automation in the summer of 2022. As you know, any startup program costs some money, and robotics is a big investment that is well worth it for student learning. With the help of funding from the district CTE and Timberview to purchase materials, I started a robotics program with one 7th grade class last year. This was a pilot class to put together some of the curriculum from Project Lead the Way into practice in the classroom. Over the summer of 2023, I applied and got a grant to add more equipment and robotics parts to really launch the program. This year, I have an 8th grade class called Robotics 2, a 7th grade class called Robotics 1, and I do 2 weeks of introduction to robotics in my 6th grade classes. There was a lot of work involved with lessons and curriculum from Project Lead the Way, putting together the lessons in the classroom and trying them out with the students to see what works and what needed to be possibly changed or adjusted. Also, sorting and getting all the toolboxes and parts put in bins and containers to be ready for class. Something that I'm really excited about with robotics is the hands-on learning experience for students. Students get to try and build projects with their hands and see them come to life in the classroom. This is great for kinesthetic learners and works well with most all types of learners. Another thing that's real exciting for me is the projects in the class are designed like a real-world situation job bid. For instance, the 8th grade class builds an elevator and presents it to their company, myself, to win the bid. Just like a real-life construction or engineering company, you have to put forth a competitive bid for the job. Everyone gets a grade, but the winner gets a prize in the class. The Robotics 1 class builds mechanisms, windmills, and pull toys. The Robotics 2 class gets to use motors and programming to make race cars, elevators, mechanical toys, and robots. Each of these are a bid with a prototype like the ones you see here before you. It is really exciting to see the hands-on class combine mathematics, coding, engineering, the design process, building prototypes, using automation and even remote controls, and having fun in the learning process. Thank you for your time today to hear about our robotics class here at Timberview. We have invited a few students to talk to you and demonstrate some of the class projects we have done. Please enjoy.
Hi, I am Alex, and I am in 8th grade, and I was in last semester's robotics class, and it was by far the best experience I've had. And this is because I've built multiple little toys that I never thought were possible. And through these experiences and problem solvings, like, oh, the base is too big, it's just given me a way to think around problems and get a better understanding of how to solve problems. For example, this year we built an elevator, and this is the same one in the video. And instead of building a pull toy, show it to them, build like a pull toy, like we added a rail and a gear, which as the button presses, it goes up instead of just because we figured out that a string always isn't reliable. We also built a robot that's automated to a controller. So every time we press a certain button on the controller, the robot goes in a certain direction, as you can see. But some of the problems we faced with this is the claw is not the same one in the design of the direction manual. And this was a big problem because we had to work around the metal pipe that's in the metal pipe that's in the claw that's preventing it from attaching to the gear, and we added a smaller gear. And the 7th graders this year are doing the windmill, which is a combination of the mechanisms. And a really cool thing about it is it can spin. And that's the use of the chain drive and the bevel gear, which it's really cool because it shows you what you can do with all this knowledge on mechanisms, which to some would just be a boring like topic. Yeah, we turn it into stuff like this. And the coding assignments are also really cool because they allow us to figure out how to solve problems like in the coding, because sometimes the code that you say go forward, it goes forward, but it shows you a problem in your mechanical. Or you say go forward and turn right, but you didn't say go turn right 90 degrees. It just turns right and continuously spins. And that was a really fun problem. We also had to use trigonometry for one of the courses we had to use with the green robot to figure out how to grab a cup and place it into a square box. And that was fun, but then it was challenging to figure out how to code trigonometry with block coding. Yeah. Yes. So, thank you. My name again was Alex, and I'm in the 8th grade. Ella.
Do I need to say it into here? Our representatives are Alex, Daria, and Eleanor. Daria and Eleanor, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Awesome. After the students are done and you guys are released from behind the place, we'd love to let you try our robots out, and the students will help you do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Next, we have Air Academy High School, Miss Yanez.
Okay, go Cadets. Air Academy is the original high school in Academy District 20 and is the only public high school located on an Air Force base in the United States. Please welcome a really super terrific human, Principal Dan Olson.
Right. Thank you all for letting us present today. We are so excited to be here. But I want to speak to our Timberview friends. Do you guys realize that your principal, Miss Bierman, used to be a teacher at Air Academy? And do you guys realize that she was one of the best teachers? She was one of the best teachers we had. And so I hear she's doing a great job for you guys. So she's amazing. So that's awesome. So great job, Karina. So today we are going to focus a little bit on what makes Air Academy unique and then look forward into the future a little bit. We are so excited about what is happening on the west side of the district and on the academy in particular. And it's amazing when you know, the stars align. We have been talking about bringing in some new innovative programs to Air Academy for years. And it just so happened that we hired a new superintendent that had a lot of the same visions. And so when both of those things came together, it just turned out marvelously. And so what we're going to do today, we're going to show a video as well that kind of gives an outline of what Air Academy is all about. And then I brought with me today some wonderful educators and one of our amazing senior students that are going to talk a little bit about what is happening at Air Academy. And so we'll watch the video, then I'll turn it over to Miss Walhoff, who is one of our assistant principals, who is in charge of creating our academies and pathways. She's going to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll hear from our teachers and our students. So please enjoy the video. Okay, thank you. So with that, I would like to introduce Miss Liz Walhoff. She is one of our assistant principals and is just an outstanding visionary leader and is putting in a tremendous effort to get these pathways and our academies off the ground. And so I'm going to turn it over to Miss Walhoff and her team.
So my part is going to be very brief here tonight. I just want to clarify the difference between an academy and a pathway, because sometimes our educationese words get a little bit mixed up. So we have both at our academy. We're launching both next year. So to put it simply, a pathway is a series of consecutive elective courses. So like when I was in high school, it might have been Spanish 1, 2, 3, and 4. We've had these for a long time at our academy, as those of you who have had students with us know. So one example is our engineering pathway. One example is our digital media pathway or our arts integrated pathway. But next year, we're going to launch our competitive and selective aviation academy, first in D20 to do pilot and drone licenses. So we are so excited about that. Now, an academy, on the other hand, is a little bit different. It's like a school within a school. So a small cohort of students who already know what they want to do, and they want to dig deeply into it and spend a lot of their day doing that. So in the academies, students are going to be placed in that cohort. They'll have a team of core teachers. And the difference being that the core teachers try to cater that core content to still meeting the standards, but also looking at how does that fit with the career pathway, that the career academy that the students might be interested in. So for example, in an English class, when a student is in our business academy, they might be looking more at technical writing than literary writing, just so that those things align really, really well. So next year, we will have 2 academy options. One is entrepreneurship, business, and marketing, and we'll have our team talk about that. And then one is going to be our Media Arts Academy, which has several strands within that. So I'm going to hand it over to Adam, who will speak to our engineering and aviation pathways.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm just going to share with you our startup on the new aviation pathway. So this is going to have one new course, which is called Introduction to Aviation and Aerospace, which is really to introduce students to careers in aviation, where we'll have guest speakers. Areas of study include aviation history, beginning pilot training, basic aerodynamics, aviation weather, navigation, and projects include flight simulators and a model airplane build. To complete the pathway, we'll couple that with our existing aerospace engineering class, where students are already learning aerospace science, aerodynamics, and lift controls, and so forth. A future goal of ours is to have a partnership for the aviation pathway, where we have industry partners, where students can take a 3rd course called Principles of Flight, where they begin their FAA training for ground school. Enhancements that we're doing to our engineering technology pathway is to add a computer science principles course, where their students are going to learn coding, fundamental tools, beginning to learn Python, where that can be applied to a variety of engineering fields, but also if students choose that engineering isn't their pathway, they can begin launching into computer science careers. And then next, I'm going to pass it off for the Entrepreneurship and Business and Marketing Academy.
Hi, I'm Allie. I teach business, and I'm really thrilled to talk about the robust business program we already have and then adding to it. Our students this year have started their 3rd student-based enterprise, student-run business. They have KDET Coffee, they have KC2, and the newest one is our apparel printing business, which you saw in the video just a little bit, called KDET Enterprises. We have given work-based learning. It's so important, and we've given it to hundreds of students, and we're ready to take it to the next level and kind of move along the work-based learning continuum, which means not just learning about work and doing those things at school, but learning through work and at work with, internships and starting businesses. So we are so excited to have this dedicated academy time to really focus on entrepreneurship, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs at our school, and getting them set up for that. But I would like to stop talking now and pass it over to the exciting one, which is Abby Weaver. Abby is a fierce leader at our school. She is also a leader of Colorado DECA. So she leads DECA from the state level. So if any of you, some of you are nodding your head, it's a pretty big deal that she does that. She's also just a brilliant woman who I admire a lot. And she actually made those hoodies that are on your chairs. So without further ado, Abby Weaver.
Hi. So as Miss J said, my name is Abby Weaver and I'm currently a senior at Air Academy High School. And I can really say, especially having siblings at multiple District 20 high schools, that Air Academy is truly the best place to learn, especially about business. Since starting these business classes my freshman year, I truly have felt so equipped, not only as a student, but also as a person. I really feel as though Air Academy business classes are the perfect place for me to also not only learn, but also to make mistakes. You know, I feel free to sort of make these mistakes and feel even that much more prepared for the real world. And I also have never truly felt like a student within our school-based enterprises. I've always felt sort of like a business partner. We're given a lot of creative freedom, especially with our new SVE. That printing press has been super fun this year. And we're given a lot of creative freedom as students, which I think is something that is sort of rare within high school. You know, I got the opportunity to make you guys those hoodies, which was so much fun for me. And I just really think that all of the opportunities that Air Academy has to offer is unmatched, especially within this business program. I was equipped with skills not only to be the president of our chapter, but also to run for that state office position, which I seriously don't think I could have done without the help and guidance, not only of my business teacher, Miss J, but all of the staff at Air Academy High School. So thank you, and I'll pass it on to Miss Klosterman.
Hi, I'm Ms. Klosterman, Katie Klosterman. Similar to the business program, we're kind of expanding and building on something we've started, which was our Arts Integrated program. But we are super excited to turn it into a Media Art Academy. And I don't have a student because I want to talk the whole time because I'm so excited. But this is a project-based learning approach that is cross-curricular and incredibly applicable to the real world and the skills that the students need. There are going to be 3 branches we have in our Media Arts Academy. First is a tech theater focus, which allows students to get hands-on training in carpentry, light and sound design, costumes, and makeup, including special effects. We actually already had 2 of our lighting technicians hired by professional theater companies this fall and have been working with an actual union license. Our second focus is going to be broadcasting, primarily focusing on sports. This program only started a few months ago, and already local businesses are buying commercial spots and funding the program. Speaking of filming, our last option is filmmaking, and students will have the opportunity to analyze different techniques in cinematography and then apply them to their own work. Students can be acting, directing, creating sets, costumes, scouting film location, but also kind of a 3.5 for this one is our editing side of production, which will include producing, editing, and marketing all of their creations. And one of our film students from last year was actually selected to go to a very exclusive camp specifically for film directors on a full scholarship based off of a short that he produced last year. So our students are incredibly talented. They're hungry for these opportunities, the real world, the internships, the actual jobs, and we're so excited to be able to offer it to them. We'd love to see any of you at Air Academy. Our doors are always open, and we look forward to more in the future.
Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present today. And once again, I just want to thank the Board of Education and Superintendent Haber for all of the support and visionary leadership to set these plans in motion. So thank you all and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Since we have Air Academy, before you sit down, if you guys want to come up, we want to be able to shake your hands and take a picture. And then we'll have the Timberview group come up. And after the picture, I'm hearing that there's board members and myself included that might want to try your robot. So.
Yeah, you can't do that on property.
took a picture. She took a picture. Perfect. They're alternate. Maybe they're hiding in there somewhere. I do. I don't see her, but there's a lot of people, so.
You know, if they're not here, we can skip it and come back around.
Yeah.
All right, thank you to our students. We're going to go ahead and keep rolling with our agenda this evening. Ms. Matson-Bonet, are there any updates to the agenda?
There were updates to the agenda and the board was notified of these.
Thank you. Members of the board, are there any items you wish to move from the consent agenda? Are there any discussion items to be added to the agenda? May we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons,
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy,
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn,
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez,
Aye.
Mr. Salt.
Aye. The board quote this evening comes from Colonel Stallworth.
Thank you. So the quote for this board meeting is, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." And I love this quote because in a world that's kind of full of groupthink right now, this speaks to innovation and creativity, independence and individuality, and taking a positive approach to challenges, all of which are fundamental components to leadership.
Thank you so much. Great quote. Does anyone have any comments from the board tonight? Gio?
Me again. So I just wanted to let everybody know, particularly in this District 20, that Air Academy and Douglas Valley, here beginning in February, the Air Force Academy is going to change its security posture a bit. And so you're probably used to coming on during a certain time, we call it direct flow, onto the base over a certain period of time when the gates get backed up. That is absolutely not how we're supposed to do business, and we're going to correct that. And so what that means for you all is going to be beginning first part of February, longer wait times at the gate. And so please plan accordingly to get your kids to school on time. Also, we're going to be looking at they're called DBIDS cards, I believe. So probably next semester we'll start to implement where your driver's license probably won't be enough. So you're going to have to register with the we call it the Pass and Registration Office there, just right outside of the South Gate, to get a DBIDS card and to be able to come on base for you and your students. So please make sure over the next couple of months that you get that done, and then plan accordingly for the traffic patterns that are going to be starting to develop here in the next couple of weeks. Thanks.
Thank you for that. That's really good to keep in mind, and we'll work with our communications team to make sure that that gets pushed out appropriately. Mr. Wilburn.
A question, the DBIDS right now waives you the ability of the necessity to have your trunk searched and all that stuff. Will that stay in place for everybody once they've got them?
If they're registered with a DBIDS card, that will stay in place. So.
All right, anyone else? All right, Superintendent Haber.
So what a treat to have our students here and just to celebrate the great work, because great really does happen here in Academy 20. So it's fun to celebrate that tonight and every time we have students here. So I just want to personally say again, happy National School Board Appreciation Month. Just really appreciate the work and the leadership that you all do. I think you would agree that you put in countless hours, volunteer countless hours for the sake of our students and our families and our staff. And just know that on behalf of cabinet and on behalf of D20 staff, I just want to say thank you for your leadership. And there is our last photo. And I did have an opportunity to work with Allison to put together short videos, just thanking you and just reflecting on some of the work that we've done.
Academy District 20, Team 1, please join me in extending a big thank you to our Board of Education as we celebrate National School Board Appreciation Month. D20 Board of Education Directors Aaron Salt, Nicole Kahns, Amy Shandy, Derek Wilburn, Lauren Yanez, and Colonel Chio Stallworth are dedicated volunteers who are passionate about education. They set our North Star, the board ends, which drive our actions as a district to provide a high-quality education for all students. Together, they spend countless hours ensuring that our students have the knowledge, skills, and character to be successful in an ever-changing world. In the coming weeks, when you see our board members, please thank them for all that they do and their commitment to D20.
So again, thank you for your vision and thank you for your leadership and your passion for serving our students to ensure that every student is successful and gets that quality education. So thank you. So as part of the onboarding for Lauren Yanez, we also had Amy Shandy came along, which was awesome. We had a chance to visit some more schools and Principal Carrie Bonilla just did a wonderful job of showing us around and specifically talking about the reading programs that they have in place and just the way they really do use data to inform their instruction and pull students into small groups and give them what they need. So that was an awesome visit. And then we also had a chance to do a learning walk with Principal Brian Casebeer and just the art teacher there doing some amazing displays. I know that Pioneer has a real focus on writing, and he just talked to us about how he feels like that's really supported their students. And certainly they just won 2 top awards, National Title School of the Year. As well as science, the state science scores being one of the highest, which was really significant for Pioneer. I looked up, I think there were 5 schools that got that award, and Pioneer was the only Title I school. The other 3 of the schools were pretty much magnet schools in the other districts for gifted and talented, and then the other one was a charter school. So I think it's huge that the work that they're doing there, and you could even see their data wall back there. I was really excited to see that, where literally teachers have conversations about data and they'll physically move students based on the achievement that they're seeing. And I know as a principal, I had a board like that, and it's really powerful when teachers talk about their students and they feel like they can physically move or they're not sure and they have great conversations. And it's a great visual at a glance to really see where students are at and what types of improvement and support is needed for different grade levels and for individual students. We had a chance to go to Mountain Ridge Middle School, and we got a nice band concert, which was fun. And Principal Jeff Stirk was really excited to show us the result of one of the bond projects. They have a stage now, and that was exciting to see. We went to Pine Creek, and Principal Tracy Carmody walked us around, and this is a picture. The lighting, I took the picture, didn't quite turn out, but these are choir students, and they were practicing for the first swim meet, and they were going to sing the Star Spangled Banner. So we had a chance to hear them sing too, which was awesome, and actually pretty good acoustics there in the pool area. And then recently, just yesterday, I spent a day at the Capitol. It was CASE, which is our statewide administrative association, and Liz Walhoff was there along with social studies teacher Rick Thiel, and he is going for his administration degree as well. And I had a great chance right before the House of Representatives session started, which is what I had a chance to observe. I had a chance to speak with Representative Wilson and Representative Pugliese. And I think Becky Allen, our Chief Financial Officer, is going to talk about this a little bit more soon. But there was a proposal to change the state formula for funding, which would negatively impact D20 by a loss of about $11 million if that formula were to get approved. So I asked them about that, and thank you to Becky Allen. She gave me some good talking points for that. And both of them said that they would not support that, but I think that Becky and I will be working together with them to help them come up with another solution that maybe that they could propose instead of that change. And basically the change was due to wanting to, which I appreciate and agree with, making sure that districts that have a higher free and reduced lunch have more funds. But to take away from a district like ours that's already funded 178 out of 178 districts in the state, surely there's a different solution that we can come up with so that students are still supported in all districts without having to significantly negatively impact our district. And some of our surrounding districts here in Colorado Springs were also negatively impacted by that. But we had a great discussion, and Senator Lundeen came over and we spent almost about an hour. He was awesome. Just really appreciate his time. Had a great conversation around funding and some of his perspective around that. So it was really good. So I was really glad I went. And there was no snow, which was really nice. I was thankful for that. And also just spending time with Liz and Rick too was a great time to get to know them better and find out even more, like we learned tonight, around what was happening at Air Academy. Congratulations to Jordan Pruitt, who is a 7th grader at Discovery Canyon Middle School. He's been named the African American Youth Leadership Conference Student of the Month. He was recognized for his passion for academics, compassion for others, and love for animals. Jordan has a 4.0 GPA and has been taking math classes 2 grades ahead of his normal level and 3 years in a row. He is also a peer leader in the Sources of Strength student program, active member of the Boy Scouts of America, and the Greater Pikes Peak chapter of Jack and Jill of America Incorporated. So congratulations to Jordan. And then congratulations to 3 Chinook Trail Middle School students who placed at this weekend's El Paso County PTA Reflections Contest. This contest allows students to submit artwork at the local level before moving on to the state and national contests. So Leah Murdoch, an 8th grader, took home 1st place in the photography category. Minja Kwan, another 8th grader, won 1st place in literature. And Layla Jean Whitehead, a 7th grader, received 1st place in visual art. And then congratulations to the Pine Creek High School hockey team. They took home 1st place at the recent Palmer Lake Outdoor Classic. And this competition is a community event that celebrates the tradition of pond hockey, high school hockey, and sportsmanship. So congratulations to the Eagles. Oops, I'm sorry. You guys like, what is she? There they are. There's the Eagles right there. So congratulations to them. And I think, and that's it. That's it for my superintendent update. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we need a motion to approve the following resolutions. Resolutions 13-24, approval of matters relating to administrative staff licensed. Resolution 14-24, approval of matters relating to administrative staff classified. Resolution 15-24, approval of matters relating to staff specialist staff. Resolution 16-24, approval of matters relating to licensed staff teachers. Resolution 17-24, approval of matters relating to licensed staff licensed support / special services provider. Resolution 18-24, approval of matters relating to classified staff. Resolution 19-24, approval of superintendent contract through 2026. Resolutions 20-24 and 21-24, approval of annual monitoring report for policy EL 2.9, communication and support to the board, and MRE for the same. Resolutions 22-24 and 23-24, approval of the annual monitoring report for governance process policy 4.6, board officers roles, and MRE for the same. Resolutions 24-24 and 25-24, approval of annual monitoring report for governance process policy 4.10, board members' code of conduct and MRE for the same. Resolutions 26-24 and 27-24, approval of annual monitoring report for governance process policy 4.11, board member conflict of interest and MRE for the same. Resolutions 28-24 and 29-24, approval of annual monitoring report for governance process policy 4.12, process for addressing board member violations and MRE for the same. Resolution 30-24, establish GASB 54 fund balance components modified for fiscal year 2023-2024. Approval of Board of Education study session meeting minutes from January 4th, 2024, and approval of Board of Education regular meeting minutes from January 4th, 2024.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy?
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn?
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
Aye. All right, we have 23 attendees online at this moment. There are no items pulled from the consent agenda. So next up is 9A, annual report for New Summit Charter Academy. Superintendent Haber.
Yes, and would Kim McClellan, the NSCA Executive Director, please come to the podium?
Is everything on? Okay. Am I on? Hello? Okay. Well, it is so good to be here. Thank you so much. I am pleased to present this year's annual board presentation to the Academy School District 20's Board of Education. As we celebrate our 6th year of operation, there is so much to be grateful for. In tonight's update, you will hear about significant celebrations throughout my update tonight, including some highlights concerning our governance, finances, operations, and academics. I'd also like to express New Summit's gratitude to Superintendent Haber. Did I pronounce that right? I'm always trying to practice that one. And her leadership team. As always, we are thankful for the support and sense of community and belonging that the district staff has always provided to New Summit Charter Academy. In your board packet, my report is broken down into various categories. These categories include information with governance, finance, operations, and our academics. So I'm going to just present a few highlights to those. And I see that my PowerPoint is up there. So, all right. So first slide, if you wouldn't mind. Who's in charge of those? On my little thing here? Oh, can I go back? There we go. I have the power now. Okay, this is awesome. All right, so this is our current enrollment. This is not our October count enrollment, so this is where we sit currently. This is also one thing I want to point out is that 5th grade class that you see there, those 90 kiddos, those were, many of those students are our original kindies, and that is one of our highest retention grades. So it's nice to be able to kind of track that grade level, going from all the way back in kindergarten, Mr. Salt, and seeing that come throughout the years. Now, this next year will be a big year. I actually just left New Summit. We had our information session tonight, and middle school was just about ready to start on their information session. And so we'll see what that retention will be like going from 5th to 6th grade, because that'll be a big telling year right there. So I just like to point that out because we do like to follow what I call that bubble group and how they're retaining year over year. New Summit student ratios. So we're really proud of our student to staff ratios. You can see what the number of administration we have versus school assistants, instructional staff, and non-instructional. So you can see the breakdown in your slides. Also, our ratio does sit right now at 25 or below. So each of those grade levels, we do know in kindergarten, we've really retained those kindies this year, and usually we're at 20-1, but we've been sitting at that 22-1. And then as you look at middle school, we had a little bit of attrition right there throughout the year. So those student to teacher ratios went down just a little bit. New Summit enrollment, this just shows our historical data. I do want to point out the 637 is actually 638. That was a typo.
But this is, and next year we do anticipate a flat enrollment as we've been, Mr. Gustafson, who is my CFO, he works at the state. He works part-time in his retirement, believe it or not, at CDE. And at across the board, districts are seeing declining enrollment. And so we wanted to be real conservative this next year. So we'll be projecting just a flat enrollment this next year. The next piece talks about our financials. So this next slide has to do with our bond ratios. We did refinance our building in 2021. And we are obligated to ensure certain ratios, debt service ratios, and our days cash on hand. And as you can see, we're at 183. We're sitting at 183.9 days cash on hand. And the minimum is 75 days. So things are looking really good there. And then our debt service ratio is at 1.82, which our minimum just needs to be at a 1.2. Mid-year financials, also just to show you what we're obligated to show in our appropriation each year. So we are sitting at just a little over $14 million in our total appropriation. Also in our mid-year budget, we did overproject this last year. We projected 680 students. We had about 42 students less than that at October count. So we did have to, this meant we needed to go line item by line item and really cut the budget in different areas that needed to make up that loss. We knew that our goal was not to cut at the classroom level or cut any staffing. And I am proud to announce on the next page that we were able to balance our budget in our mid-year approved budget, amended budget that we had. But because of our budget discipline, I will say this is a theme that I bring up all the time with our board and with our staff, is to have budget discipline that we continually practice year over year with New Summit. So our amended budget, we were able to make that goal. We are at the best financial position we ever have been at New Summit. Our fund balance increased $587,000 in the fiscal year 2023. And as of June 30th, our total general fund balance and cash on hand was $3.1 million. We have been blessed, completely blessed, and increased revenues and able to yield some higher investment income that we all know that if you're investing in Colo Trust, that there's some good percentages there. So we've been able to yield some good returns in that as well. Next one has to do with our mid-year budget building corp. So this building corp was developed in our refinance, and this also has to do with the new building, the new gymnasium that we built, and some of the additional funds that we had in capital improvement money that we have to spend by the end of this year. We're coming down to the very end of that, and we're at about $59,000 left that we have to spend. But you can also see in here that it did just stay at the end of 2023, we were just shy of $4 million. Some of this money that we also have needed to spend, whatever was left over from our construction on our gymnasium. We did do some capital improvements of things like we built a new preschool playground. So if you drive over to New Summit, you'll see that new playground finally in. We did finally do some pour and play in our playground, so we don't have the wood chips anymore. Kids are not going to be coming home with the wood chips in their pockets. We also, because that was fun for, oh boy, it was in hair, it was everywhere, stuck on sweaters. So now we don't have that, which is good. Additional security cameras. So we did, with the additional space, we had to add some more additional security cameras. We have a state-of-the-art sound system and visual audio system in our school. It really pumps when the kids are coming out and having fun. So we're excited about that. And then we did have to do some HVAC upgrades because it is an older building, and the phase 1 side, we needed to do some upgrades. And there's more updates in your report that you have. The other thing, our board of directors is in the process of identifying a new board member. So our founding board member, Eric Davis, who is our board chair, he is termed, he's finally termed, Mr. Salt. And he So if you know anybody who is interested in serving on the amazing New Summit Charter Board, applications will be opening on March 1st, and we have an information session, I believe, for new applicants in February, end of February. Also, in June of 2023, the board did approve a new strategic plan. It's the very first strategic plan after 5 years. I knew as executive director it was time. Usually, as you start a school, to start a strategic plan the very first year doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You don't have a lot of data. So we finally approved our first strategic plan. And this was created by a committee of parents and teachers and other staff members, including another board member. And the teams really have been busy working on strategies from the outcomes of the goals and objectives. So they're in the process of looking at what strategies they're going to use for each of those. And so in your packet, you can see an academic growth and excellence. That is one of the goals. And then the objectives that you see are in the bullet points. And underneath that will be all the strategies that the teams are working on currently to identify which things we're going to be doing in the next 3 years. The next goal has to do with financial health and excellence. And so you can see the objectives there. You know, we feel this goal was actually met since we're in the best financial place we've ever been in. However, we want to continue that. And in order to continue that, we need to look at the objectives that we have here and continuing to grow and look at strategies in order to continue to do that. And our operational development, we knew that as our school grows, we are past that 5th year mark of being a new school. And so our goal is really around the operations that look like what it's going to be ahead and in the future of 10 years and beyond. So these different objectives that you see here in terms of staff and retention, attracting and hiring excellent people, establishing an efficient and sustainable school operational model. These are standard operating procedures that we are still continuing to build as we've been growing. And even things like a succession plan, having an emergency leadership plan. So in case Glenn always calls it the bus test. And what happens if something happens to me as the executive director? We need to have a plan in place in order to have a sustainable operational model. The next one is school environment excellence. So this looks at enhancing community partnerships. One of the big areas here that we've really been focused on is that secondary campus alignment and looking at what our middle school, because the more those 5th graders coming into 6th grade, we want to continue to keep them through 8th grade. And as we continue to sustain a really solid middle school, that can help us to decide whether or not in future years we want to build a high school. And then student behavior, we're seeing, we're refining some of our discipline policies, including our discipline matrix, and looking at some consistencies there and some alignment in student behavior. This next slide has to do with academics. Academics are very important to New Summit. It's been sort of an up and down. We building a new school, we were really building a lot of baseline, and as we came out of COVID, we were looking at a new baseline as well. And so this slide really just focuses on our academic achievement goals, which are defined within our dashboard that you see in your packet as well. We will be presenting our mid-year dashboard to our board this February. This February. And so we'll be able to see all those mid-year results and see how, but looking ahead, I know we're already seeing some really big improvements. Even just seeing our DIBEL scores that just came out, we were able to grow in 3rd grade by, I believe it was 5 points. And it's exciting to see that that improvement. But you can also see here, these goals are really focused on towards achieving towards year 2025. So we know some things don't just happen in 1 year. So we're looking at year 2025 in both elementary and middle school in academic achievement and meeting different growth targets that we need for reading, math, and language arts. I won't go through and read all those because that'll take forever, but I want to get to the exciting stuff, this amazing new gym that we have over at New Summit. If you haven't had a chance to come and look at it, I want to thank President Salt for joining our ribbon cutting. And the precast, we did decide to go last minute as we saw the steel and wood it's amazing the things that I've learned in construction over the years with New Summit. But we did learn that steel and wood was very expensive. And so we decided last minute to go with precast, and we're so glad we did. We even got to see some of the slabs being poured in Brighton, Colorado. And then it was quite the feat for a whole week. And the kids loved seeing the big cranes come in and bringing in the big slabs. And we're just really pleased with the decision that we made with the precast. We did have what we call the Great Flood of New Summit, not just once, but twice. And I'm not sure, oh, it looks like, oh, here we go. The Great Flood of New Summit really kind of delayed things, but it definitely showed some character of New Summit, and that's perseverance. We have persevered through so much over the 5 years. And as you can see in this one of these slides, all of the beautiful hardwood floor had just been laid and had been sitting in the gym, sort of, you know, where it has to get used to that climate. And in came on, the first flood was January 21st. And it was so big that there was water, like literally you could step and the water would just come up and over. This was, you know, Colorado saw a lot more rain, and people were like, well, why wouldn't the construction company have known? Like, it couldn't. Well, we didn't anticipate all of this rain, and so all the concrete and the parking lot hadn't been poured yet. So the runoff from even the apartments above us had come nicely down and just poured right into the stairwell of our gym. And well, water is pretty powerful. So luckily, I will tell, I'm going to put a big shout out to Legacy Renovations. They were heroes in this whole situation. In about 2 hours of them seeing the flood, they got on the phone and were able to talk with a company who had the wood on hand for themselves, but they were delayed. So they let us use that wood to replace it so that we could get going within a 2-week period once everything was dry. Then September 10th came by and we had another flood. Our sump pump had been pouring water back in because it didn't have a sensor on it. And just something that we learned through the process, and that came into even part of our other part of our school. But never fear, we still finished in October, and the Legacy Renovations were fast at it and getting that floor in. But it seemed as though every time we scheduled a ribbon cutting, we had a flood. So we stopped scheduling the ribbon cutting and we waited until after the gym was done. So the Great Flood showed lots of perseverance and a lot of learning experiences for me and how sump pumps work and different things like that. So another thing, so then you can see this it was well worth the wait. In these pictures, it doesn't even do it a service. Our Yeti is proud in the middle, and all of this color is from the stain that they did in the hardwood floor. So I encourage you to come by and see how beautiful this is, because this was a big hole that was dug and it was sitting there for a year, and now it's this beautiful gymnasium. So we have a lot of celebrations with New Summit, but a couple of the highlights: we are a national showcase school, again, 4th year in a row. We just applied for our 5th year, so we'll see with the outcome of that. One of our first graders also was recognized as one of the best and brightest award recipients in Colorado Springs. If you didn't get to see her on KOAA Channel 5, she was quite adorable, and so we're really excited about that. She really made New Summit look spectacular. And then with our new gym, we were able to host an indoor fall festival with over 2,500 people in attendance. So that says it also meets our mission of building an education community. And so we're not just about building a school, we're about building that community. And so people from the community were able to enjoy New Summit and a fun fall festival. We had over 30 student vendors from other homeschool programs from all over the city, in addition to 80 vendors that were from throughout the community. So that was really fun to see that happen. You can see this amazing video later on. I won't show it right now, but there is a video embedded into here that you can watch that just kind of shows some of the video footage from our what's happening in specials now and how much the kids are enjoying that gym. And then some other things with New Summit in action. You see our security officer here, Officer Sam. He We had a student staff member for a day, and one of our students got to be a staff member with Officer Sam. It was very, very cute seeing his security shirt on. And then we had our band concert, one of our first band concerts. We have a spectacular band teacher. His last name's Divine, and he is truly divine. You may see him locally and throughout different places throughout Colorado Springs playing the saxophone. He even plays the saxophone right before staff meetings, and he goes in and plays it at lunchtime for kids. And he's taken some kids who've never played an instrument before, and they're actually going to a competition now in less than a year. So he's a phenomenal band teacher. And then choir concerts finally in our amazing gym, and then just showing some pictures of our middle school home ec class. Next slide is Jennifer Reisig, our principal, getting wet. We have an annual summer carnival, so all of you are welcome to our summer carnival. It's a lot of fun. We have board game clubs. We have a karate class for middle school. And then, as always, the annual Halloween costume that all of our office staff does. And this year we were old people, and it was really fun. So next year, we're already picking out the costumes for next year. So we have a great team. In summary, we just have a really great team. We have a wonderful school, and we're just so thankful to be a part of District 20. Any questions?
Board, any questions? Mr. Wilburn.
Thank you so much for this. This report is incredible.
Thank you.
It's apparent you and the board put a lot of time, work, and thought into this, and it's remarkable. You talk about the win time in the report, which I'm really curious about that. So it appears under staff development, not student, which is good. Is that something that all students, or is that on an as needed basis, or how's that work?
No, so it's a school-wide, what we call a what I need, and 45 minutes a day at the same time with all grade levels. All the students, it depends. It's very individualized for our students too. So if they need some extra reading time, they might go to reading intervention. If they need some resource time, they go there. If they also within grade levels, they may go from a different class to get some more individualized interventions and support. It might be in math, it might be in reading, maybe some writing, but it's a focused 45 minutes. And then at our middle school, they call it a win with a Y for what Yetis need, because they know now the middle schoolers are very much about the team aspect and whatnot.
Okay, so it's 45 minutes daily. The financial picture is remarkable. Would to God that all schools were in your shoes, with close to a $600,000 revenue plus.
Yes.
Mention is made in the budget. You touched on it from the podium about the high school building fund. What's that look like? Is there a set amount or percentage that's being siphoned into that fund? Is there a plan? Are you hoping to break ground or occupy a pre-existing building, or don't we know yet?
We really don't know. We just know that if we don't have the money for it, and we don't have, as I went through the refinance, I learned a lot about what happens and how you purchase bonds and what you need to prove to investors to be able to have them invest in you. So that comes with enrollment, but we also have to have money prioritized, because high schools are not inexpensive. Many times elementary schools and the middle schools kind of help support the funding of a high school. And as a charter school, there's a lot of costs, and we can't be a full comprehensive high school right off the bat. The plan for that is very much let's start putting money away so that we can start prioritizing that. And so we put, the board has decided this last year, we put $250,000 into the fund to start building that. But we do know that we need to, one of the goals is to have at least a couple million in there before even considering and setting out to investors and seeing if we can get bonds or find land if we need it and whatnot. But I do believe that our middle school is going to outgrow as well. So we're going to need some additional space to put the secondary, so that we can have a secondary campus versus just an elementary. But that's years down the road. And we know with percentage rates right now, interest rates, nobody's refinancing right now.
Tell me. And along those lines of the middle school growth, the report mentions your intent to return. The most recent should be available on or about the 26th of this month.
Yes.
Can we get our hands on that when you get it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the board. We appreciate you and your servant.
All right, Ms. Collins.
Kim, thanks for being here.
It's good to see you.
You too. On the larger document that you supplied us, not this slideshow, page 10, you talked about recommendations you're working on for increasing the safety effectiveness.
Oh, yes.
So can you just briefly mention?
Let me go over here really quick and see what So some of the recommendations that we have been working on are actually, we did just redo, there's a door that we need to redo. We've been looking at numbering the outside when you, from like, so that if somebody comes in, that you can say, go to door 1 and they can see it outside. We also needed to put room numbers on the inside of our doors. There's things like we needed to put some more tint on a few of our at-level windows like you see over here. Oh gosh, there's tons more security cameras that I mentioned that we needed to have. Those are just, and we're going to be putting in money for a safety and security grant, and we're changing all the locks on each of our doors because right now our locks, teachers have to keep them locked and they have a magnet that they pull for lockdowns. And so we wanted to it's very expensive. They're like $150 a piece. And so we're putting in a grant for new locks on all of our doors as well.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So let's talk about the nitty gritty, just the ups and downs with growth and achievement. And I love you guys. I'm super proud of you. But I just want to talk a little bit, or if you can talk about what you're addressing with your staff to, improve those outcomes.
Oh yeah,
year
absolutely.
over year.
One of the areas, we did just do a new instructional coach. So this is our first year for an instructional coach. And so she's going around and really identifying different specific needs for teachers. We also just became a certified mentor program. So we can do an induction program through our own school. So now we have a better mentorship program. They also have a better professional development plan. We did also adopt just a new math curriculum because we knew our math scores were definitely lower than we wanted, and we realized that Singapore math wasn't meeting the needs of our community. So we did do a new curriculum adoption, and it's Eureka Math, and it is, our teachers are loving it. They really appreciate all the tools that they have. So we're hoping, there's an implementation dip with new programs, and so we're really hoping to see that in the next year improve. We did see District 11 had adopted the same math curriculum, and their math scores definitely skyrocketed this last year. So we're looking at pieces like that. There's also some additional trainings that we're encouraging staff to be able to be more individualized versus staff sitting through professional development that may not apply to them. So really working through that. And then additional pieces with streamlining our evaluation system. We realized that as a part of our growth and some of our strategic plan that we needed to align our evaluation system and look at that a little bit better than what we had done in the past.
All excellent. So thank you for going through that. Final question. Do you feel like the staff has, because you invest so much in capturing kids' hearts, which I love how it aligns with our board ends, our character ends so much. Do you feel like the staff has the capacity? They have the skill, but do they have time for all the new instructional coaching? I don't know how much time capturing kids' hearts is taking.
So capturing kids' hearts is just who we are.
Okay.
It is, it's a process that it's not a curriculum. It's not a program. Because when you think of programs, you think of, oh my gosh, all these things I've got to learn. Right. It's really a process. Okay. And it's what we have process champions that are embedded throughout each of the different grade levels. And so they're teacher leaders who help support the teachers in, okay, am I asking the 4 questions when a kid's doing something wrong? It's, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? And so it's not something else that they have to learn. It's just a process that they becomes a rhythm that they just act. We have a discipline ladder that they follow. Kids are used to checking each other. We do timeouts. Like if you're sitting in the gymnasium and we have to get the whole entire room quiet, everybody does a timeout. That's a process that we use, and everybody's able to identify that. So I don't really feel that it's another thing. There's some teachers who, you know, if they haven't gone through the training and they come in mid-year, we're really prioritizing them getting that training and how do we support them. Social contract is a process that it's always there. It's what we've always had, and kids know what that means. So I don't really feel like it's another piece. It's just something that it's what we expect. It's a who you are. And it's like who I am at my core. I don't just put on a coat every day I walk into school of capturing kids' hearts. If anybody knows me, I know even some of your leadership team knows me. I live and breathe by capturing kids' hearts because it's just who Kim is.
Right. So, right. Well, that explains it so well. So thank you. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that they had
Yeah.
the space to take
Absolutely.
on all the new mentoring and coaching
Yep.
for the academic achievement.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you explained it great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So a couple questions. One, on your slide that you had where you listed your 2025 goals,
Mhm.
elementary was listed at 85% and your middle school was listed at an 80%.
Mhm.
Could you explain why you had a different target for each of those?
So it's because of where we started. And so we were looking at what we want to make sure that we achieve a goal. And so we looked at where the original percentage was. And I believe it was growing, each of those needed to grow by 5%. It was either 10% or 5%. So something that was still attainable. But we knew we didn't want to make it any lower than 80. So,
Sounds good. Thank you.
yeah.
Board, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Is this picture in the lower right corner how much you've all aged since the beginning of the school year?
Yes. And notice I got a little Botox since then. Next year, I think the theme may be sitting on the ocean theme. Not really sure.
All right, thank you. Next is the District Accountability Committee review of site plans and unified improvement plan. Superintendent Haber.
Dr. Susan Field, Assistant Superintendent for Learning Services.
Thank you. Well, good evening. It's always a pleasure to give the board a report about our fabulous District Accountability Committee here in District 20. I want to say it's an honor to co-chair with Nicole Kahns, and we also have a parent chair. Her name is Shannon Hester. And then, of course, we have the amazing admin support from Tina Matson-Bonet, who makes all of it run. So this process, which is the annual review of school site plans and UIPs, I think is probably one of the most favorite of our DAC. And remember that we have many parents. Tina, do you know off the top of your head about how many folks we have on DAC?
About 66.
66. And I would say 60 of them or so are parents in our community. We have 1 or 2 reps from each school that serve, and we have a few staff members on the committee as well. So it's an awesome committee. So the DAC charge from the Board of Education, there's 11 different points that the board has for the DAC. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is number 4 and number 6, which is form an accreditation subcommittee for specific outcomes. And then number 6 is the annual site plan and school UIP reviews for each school. So that's the only thing I'm going to talk about tonight in regards to DAC. Wrong way. Okay, so this is the amazing accreditation subcommittee. In August, when we all convene together for the first time when school starts, we seek volunteers. We have 2 committees on DAC. We have the budget subcommittee, which Becky Allen runs, and the accreditation subcommittee, which I run. So you can see that there are 14 members on this subcommittee, and I know it's kind of small, but we have parents, we have lots of parents, we have a community patron, we have an administrator, myself, just a nice mix of folks on this committee. And we start meeting together in September. And I'm just going to walk you real quickly through this process so that you can understand what we do. So the accreditation subcommittee, what we do just as a subcommittee is we lead this annual review, which took place on November 14th. Each of the subcommittee members facilitate a small group that reviews a feeder strand of a school's site plan and UIP. And typically we have co-facilitators. So the 14 of us, like I did a committee by myself, but then I'll have a couple parents that will be paired up together. Then the facilitator gets to write up a feedback report to principals with feedback about the alignment between their unified improvement plan and their site plan. And then finally, the last thing this committee does, and we've already done that, is we review the accreditation handbook that guides schools through the accreditation process. It's a big handbook. It sits out on our internet if anyone's interested in looking at it. Wrong way again, sorry. So this committee met 3 times, the subcommittee met 3 times outside of DAC prior to November 14th, just to get prepared. I have several people who are returning members of this subcommittee that love doing this work and love leading these groups. So we were divided into 8 groups with facilitators and co-facilitators, and we always get back together again at the end and talk about what went well, what would we change. We don't have much to change anymore because we have done this for 3 years, and I feel like it's going really well. The principals really like it, and our parents absolutely love it. So the review process starts with the organization of the feeder strands. So all of the feeder strands are, we have them organized by feeder strand. We have the Pine Creek feeder strands split in 2 because there's so many schools. And then we have TCA has its own strand. And then we kind of have like what we call our alternative strand. So that's where Village High School is, where Village Middle School will be. We also have New Summit with that group. And parents that sit on the DAC sit in those strands. And so ahead of the actual November 14th meeting, we send out these 4 questions to our principals. We call it the principal template, and we have them just bullet answers. So the template comes back in to Tina, and they go out to the small groups about a week ahead of time. So all these parents have all these templates that principals have filled out, so they're ready to answer questions, or ask questions rather, when principals come in to speak. What is very powerful about this is that this process used to be just a paper process where we would sit down in groups and we would comb through a 55-page UIP and comb through a long site plan that a school had, and we couldn't ask questions. And so being able to ask questions is very powerful. We also give the principal 20 minutes to come in and talk about their alignment to E1.1, E1.2. We also talk about how both the plans are aligned to support students, and then anything else they want to share. And it's amazing the information that our parent committee receives about schools. They absolutely love it. We have elementary parents that only have kids in elementary school right now, and they love hearing about their feeder middle school, their feeder high school, where their kids will be going someday. And they get to ask great questions, and they ask amazing questions. So then we, the accreditation subcommittee, the facilitators write up a report. So we create a template. It's not hard. We just tell them you don't have to write incomplete sentences with 5-paragraph essays, but you can write bullet points, which we appreciate. And so after the 20 minutes of a principal speaking about their school, the subcommittee gets together, or the committee gets together and debriefs. And so we always hear, oh, we need more than 15 minutes. They would like an hour, right, Nicole, with each principal, and about a half hour to debrief. But we do a good job. Our facilitators are awesome. They know the right questions to ask. And so what we do is we talk about what are the recurring themes, concepts, or ideas that emerged from the review. And you're going to hear a lot of consistency just because we're super focused on E1.1 and E1.2. And when we do site planning and UIP writing, we make sure that everything is aligned. And then finally, the committee will give commendations, recommendations, and then a lot of times they'll challenge or stretch a principal's thinking. So this gets written in a report, which you all have access to look at any of these reports. The report is sent about a week or 2 later to the principal, and the principal's supervisor is copied as well. So then for me, I supervise 8 schools. And so I have been talking with my principals about, hey, what's some good feedback that you received? What are some things that you might consider? And so that's how it kind of loops back around. So the reflection, like I said, we reflect with principals. We ask them how it went, what could we do to make it better? And then the DAC also gives feedback on the whole process. And I think the biggest takeaway for parents, they walk away just so impressed with our principals and how meaningful and how hard they are working at their schools on the behalf of their students. Parents in the DAC love meeting by feeder strands. We used to not do it by feeder strands. And so we have some of the same parents that come back every year. And, you know, they'll say, oh, I'm so excited to hear from Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so about what's going on at whatever school. So I think the feeder strand really helps also give them a lot of ownership in what they're listening and giving feedback for. And then the committee really loves having the actual document a week ahead of time. Also, Tina does amazing work. She puts the Unified Improvement Plan and the site plan from each school in board docs. And so everything is in board docs. If anybody ever wanted to go look at any school's plans, they could. In addition, she puts each school performance framework there as well. So it's a lot of paper to look at. But we spend a lot of time in DAC in September and October talking about all these different plans, talking about the work that schools are doing, talking about improvement goals. We spend a lot of time walking through that school performance framework that comes from the state, which is heavy. And so I feel like our DAC members are smart, they're educated, they know the right questions to ask, and you'd be impressed to listen to them ask some of their questions. So, and like I said, the DAC always wants more time to debrief and also just to spend with principals. So just a few of the recurring themes that I looked at. I have all of the reports. Tina has all the reports, and I've been looking at each person's because we have 8 different facilitators. But I think that principals talked a lot about professional learning communities. That's a big focus for them. The utilization of student data was talked about a lot. And these are just a few of the recurring themes. I could probably give you 10 slides. Intervention, extension time, and schedules. So that's intervention and extensions for students. Behavior supports has been really big in the elementary schools and what's going on there. Sources of Strength campaign. So remember, Sources of Strength is one of our programs that we have in our middle schools and high schools, and it's student-led and student-led campaigns. We heard a lot about partnering with parents, principals. Almost every principal talked about how they partner or try to engage parents in the education of their students. And then finally, we heard a lot about just how principals try to get students involved in their schools, not just in the academics, but in the activities and clubs and sports that occur after school. That's it. What questions can I answer for you?
Any questions? Ms. Yanez.
So I got to serve on DAC and it was really great. And I just some of the work that goes into that, the parents that go back to their school accountability committees and report back kind of all what's going on. That piece is so important. You mentioned that parent partnership piece, and you hear about all these amazing things happening at, through DAC and making sure those communication channels are open with school accountability. And then I also remember inviting people into PTO meetings to just keep those communication lines open. So I actually was just saying this to the parents and community members that are involved in DAC. It's a huge thank you, and I know how much time it takes. So
thank you. They are very committed. And this Tuesday, we were supposed to have DAC, but we had a snow day instead. So what is on tap next are the budget priorities that Ms. Allen leads with the budget subcommittee. So what happens next, they go back into these exact same feeder strands, same groups, different facilitators, because it's the budget subcommittee. And they get to hear from principals about where they're spending money. So they have budget priorities. And what we tell the DAC to listen for is what principals say they're doing, where they're focused. That's where they should be also spending money. So it's a great process. I think parents walk away with a greater appreciation of the work that's going on in schools. So thank you.
All right. I just wanted to say again, thank you to you and thank you to the DAC and everyone who's serving on that. I actually knew someone who went through that I was speaking with last year who had been a little critical of the district, and going through this UIP process, they came away and they said, wow, District 20 is doing some amazing work. I said, I'm glad you're able to see that from the inside and, turn someone who into an advocate. And so I thought it was really good. So thank you again for all the work that you guys
bet.
are doing.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the Library Books Committee, Superintendent Haber.
Yes, so board, we had a just huge thank you to Carol and Tiona for being here today. That was just a wonderful study session, just to learn more about how the public library operates and how they select books, and the amazing process that Carol and Tacey and Susan and her team have really put together to make sure that we've got a good, streamlined, well thought out, research-based process, I think, in how we select books and how we weed books and manage the library. And it was fun to hear about all the different programs and ways that students use our libraries, and really celebrating reading, which I think is where was a great to be able to have a chance to celebrate that. So another one of the themes that came out of that discussion for me is just the importance of building community. And I see the topic of library books being a real opportunity for us to bring members of, especially our parents, together around a topic that can be divisive. And so the purpose of this library book committee is to provide an opportunity. We're going to focus on middle school, to provide an opportunity for middle school parents in D20 alongside teachers and administrators to have a productive dialogue about the perspectives related to the books in D20 libraries that may be viewed as controversial by various constituents. It's also to give members of this committee an opportunity to read books that are considered a 3, 4, or 5 according to booklooks.org, which is a website that has looked at books, I think, nationally even, to see, okay, for various groups, what would be some books that they may consider that we should consider looking at. This website has identified books that have been challenged other places or that may have content that various groups have deemed inappropriate for school libraries. And to ask the members of this committee to rate after they've had a chance to read these books, which will give them approximately a month to read the books. To ask members of this committee to rate each of these books according to the criteria that our school librarians currently use in the selection of books for our libraries. And Carol did a nice job going over what those 9 criteria are. To bring the members of this committee back together to discuss their feedback for each of the books according to the provided criteria, and through a structured protocol for dialogue, attempt to come to consensus about whether or not these books should remain or be removed from middle school libraries. And if there's instances where there's no consensus about these books, then there will be another process that we'll put in place in the 3rd meeting to involve the committee members in brainstorming possible solutions to this issue. And I thought Carol did a good job of showing I know parent choice is an important value for us here in D20, and there's several different ways right now that parents have choices in either, limiting what books students read or really having more parent choice over the types of books that they want their students to read. So the purpose of bringing this to the board tonight in this session is to make you aware of it. And just know we're working out the fine-tooth details. So that wasn't the purpose of needing to get, into the real weeds around that. But for me, just to get a temperature check from you guys on, is this a process that you could support? Because we would also ask that there would be 2 board members during this process, just as observers. They wouldn't actually participate as part of the committee. And then we also have a proposed timeline that we posted. So, with that first meeting, we would put out the application process. Any parent, middle school parent D20 who want to be a part of that could apply. We have a continuum a 1, 2, 3, 4 continuum, where by parents filling out the continuum, they could kind of indicate where they're at on that continuum as far as, believing that all books should stay compared to maybe be really wanting certain books to be removed, and anywhere in between. And then selection of the committee would be, and selection of the committee, we have a certain number of people based on how the process would work. If we have more people that are 3s and 4s than 1s or 2s in the group, then we would just use a very random process. We're not pre-selecting anybody, and we're not going to, the application is basically just to give us the information we need so that if they're on the committee, we have the information that we need to make sure that we can support the process. And if there's more parents that sign up than we have room for, it's a random drawing. So there's no pre-selection of any kind. And then we would give parents those books to read at that February meeting, and then wait till about after spring break. And then we would have 2 meetings in April to have the last 2 pieces of that process. So I'd just love to have you guys weigh in if you would. If you don't have anything, and then I'm just assuming that you're good with it.
Any comments? Ms. Inez?
Okay, can you guys scroll up a little bit on the infographic? I have to dig in my folder, which I can do. Okay. Okay, can you remind me again how subcommittees would be broken down? Is that by, can you just remind me?
Yeah, so in general, we would have like 5 groups of 5 with 2 parents that would be maybe who rated themselves as a 1 or 2 on the continuum, and 2 parents that rated themselves as a 3 or a 4. And then we would have 1 administrator or teacher on each of the 5 committees. So it's not a subcommittee, but everyone stays in the same room. We would just have a process that would take place within each individual group, being that consensus building there through a very structured protocol. We're working with a company out of Inglewood that does, they specialize in mediation, and we're looking at the possibility of bringing them in also to help us with the process.
Thank you.
I think this shows that you're being reasonable, Superintendent Haberer. So it's an issue in the community. You've listened to the community. There are those in the community who would say, let's get everything out of there. If I don't like it, it goes. Well, that's not reasonable. And there are those who say, let's remove nothing. Everything should go. And that's not either. So you're trying to find a ground that we can all live with. And I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
Explain, so you said the committee will be balanced, but it's also random.
Random for each group. So it's not, so we will make sure that we have the same number of parents that are 1s and 2s and the same number of parents who are on the committee that are 3s and 4s. So in that, the random would be of those 2 groups, but not that, you could have more people on one side or another in the committee. The committee will do everything we can to make that balance based on what they put on the survey.
All right, and then you're using a rating system, right, already in place, or the lookbooks?
Yes.
Whatever you said. And then you're going to have them rated again?
So not a rating, but what we would do is have them provide feedback about that book based on the selection criteria that Carol showed tonight. They would go through that and kind of write their comments about the book after they've had a chance to read it based on that criteria. So it's not another rating. They would come back to the group, and everybody would have a certain amount of time to be able to share what their feedback was about that group going through the ratings, not ratings, the criteria that we already have in place for selection.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think you have expressed this before, and it's important for the community to know we're not trying to open up a can of worms.
Yep.
The intention is to bring the community together to start dialoguing to start supporting our district, unified, despite differences of opinion, you are using this as a springboard to start more productive, unifying conversations.
So when you talk about reaching consensus, what actions are you looking at having come out of these small group?
So we have 5 in each of the small groups. After they share out their feedback on the criteria for each book, then one book at a time, after each person's had a chance to share out, we'll have a protocol for that dialogue and see if those 5 people within that group can come to consensus as to whether or not the book should just stay in the library or if it should be something that should be a book that should be removed. We haven't landed quite sure on like what that percentage of consensus is. We may even give it to the group and have them through a Mentimeter tell us what they would prefer on that, because there's a simple majority or major majority. And if they can't come to consensus, that book goes aside and that would be saved for the 3rd meeting, where we'll just have to do some brainstorming as a community, being aware of the parent choice that we already have in place, and see if we can come up with a 3rd alternative with books that we're not able to come to consensus on.
Is there going to be, people will view this as winning and losing based off of how the books get actioned at the end of this. Is there going to be an appeal process through this, or is this going to be considered final, and is there going to be a time limit before it becomes actionable again?
So that's a topic that we'll talk about tonight and get some legal counsel around. And that is that whatever comes out of the committee, the board, because ultimately the board's responsible for what's in the library, the board could choose to allow to just say whatever the committee decides we're good with, and or say, if somebody, still wasn't happy with that, they could potentially go through an appeal process. And those are the details we're working out to still have the board be the final say, because you guys are responsible for what's in there. So, but we'll talk about that tonight and get some legal advice from Tanya around that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions, board? All right. I will say, just based off of the conversation we're having around library books and the work session that we had this afternoon, there are a lot of parent empowerment tools through the library that you can choose what's available for your students. And so we will be presenting more information that we're going to be doing a campaign. We haven't decided this because it just came up a couple hours ago, but we'll be working on a campaign to communicate this out, probably do a parent academy or something to really help inform the community members what options they have as parents to help curate the resources that are available to your students. So there's more information about that coming, but I wanted to let you know that that is something that we understand is a gap in knowledge between the district and the parent community. And so we want to try to close that gap and provide information and resources for you. So keep that in mind and watch out for more information on that. Yes.
I do have one more quick question, just to clarify. So only middle school parents can be on the committees, or is it just to review middle school books?
I think at this point, we're thinking just middle school parents, and that directly affects their children.
Okay, thank you.
Board, anything else? All right, thank you. All right, next is the monthly financial report through December 2023. Superintendent Haber.
Yes, and Ms. Becky Allen, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. It's hard to believe, but this is the second quarter report, also representing half of the fiscal year already over. So if you take a look at table 1, please notice in letter A in the blue box, you'll see we've collected about 30.7% of our revenue, a little higher than this year, last year at this same time. You can also see this visually on the graph that shows the current revenue stream on the right, and you see that bar graph taller, and there are some talking points at the bottom that illustrate what makes up that difference. With respect to expenditures, looking at letter B in the blue box, expenditures are at about 47%, which is a bit higher than last year at 44%. Also, this graph shows you our resources are exceeding our expenditures by about $12.3 million, which is shown as the gap on this slide. Now, because this is a quarterly report, I also share with you how each one of our funds are looking. For each one of our funds, our resources exceed expenditures except for the fund that is marked in blue. That's our designated purpose grants. They live upside down because what happens is those are housing our grant dollars, and quite often we spend first and get reimbursed later, which is why it tends to be upside down. The last component of a quarterly report takes a look at the projection for the end of year unassigned fund balance. You can see in the green box, and to the left of it, you see the word audited there. So if you were to look at this before our audit was complete, you would have noticed that dollar amount would be about $29 million. It is now about $39 million. And I will share all of those details with you as we present the mid-year budget. The analogy I give is this. So, you know, we're in the playoffs of the NFL right now. To really go back and be like, I'd really like to watch the Eagles play their second week regular season game, it lost its luster, especially after I saw the Eagles play in their wild card game, where they are not able to move forward. But it's sort of the same thing. The monthly budget right now sort of is a regular season game, and we've got the playoffs coming in the mid-year budget. One question that I did receive regarding this particular slide was the amount of the $5.35 million. What does that represent? Well, it has, it's in red, it's got parentheses, so it means it's really a reduction of our general fund dollars because those dollars became assigned to something very specific. Part of that 5.35 is, do you recall the 2.7 million in the adopted budget that went to the PSMIP, the public schools on military installations? The other part is we look here and we try to make a projection of where we think things will land. We take into account that we can't have a total unassigned fund balance that exceeds 12%. So our best projection is that 5.35 million using the PSMIP, and then what we think would be some assigned dollars that make sense. But again, I'll show you the playoff game in a little bit when it's time for the mid-year budget. Any questions for me?
No questions, just praise.
Oh,
You
thank
do
you.
such a great job. The inflows and outflows are great. There's no surprises to it all. So I just wanted to praise you that you're doing a really great job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next is the first semester 2023 expulsion report. And I've got a state law CRS 24-72-2-4 3D3, the public records law, requires the Board of Education to comply with provisions of the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, which protects the confidentiality of students' discipline records. Therefore, the report by the superintendent on the student expulsions for first semester 2023-2024 is confidential. All right, last is the second quarter Board of Education discretionary budget update. Ms. Shandy.
Yeah, you should all have copies of it all. Right now we're sitting pretty good. We're still way under budget, which is great. We moved around some money, and just for the new people like myself, a little information. The budget amounts and all of that are historicals, and then any money left over at the end of it, the year goes back into the general unassigned fund. So that's where that goes. We are over on the election fees, and that was just from adding the question on the ballot. We just, and what was proposed of how much it would be to add that question. We came in under. So Becky will be talking about that too and how to cover the overage part. And this is not the final number for that. The county is still deciding what that final amount will be. So questions for me?
All right, thank you. Ms. Cortez, how many people have signed up to speak during public comment section number 1?
Every time. There are 6 people signed up in the first section.
All right, thank you. We've got a little bit of a new preamble this evening. It is lengthy, so please listen, but we had several questions that came in about wanting clarification. And so Ms. Thompson helped write something up that provides that clarification. The board welcomes the comments of our community members. Speakers must sign up prior to 1 p.m. via an online form, and they must limit their remarks to 2 minutes or less. In deference to ASU 20 students, students will be allowed to speak first during the public comment section. Following any students, speakers who wish to comment on an agenda item will be called in order of their sign up. We greatly value all comments from the public, but in order to adhere to board policy and accomplish the work already on the agenda, the board will not be responding this evening. Speakers may offer appreciation for or criticism of school board operations and programs as concern them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly, as they are personally responsible for any legal consequences attributable to their comments, including claims for defamation. Please keep in mind that students often attend board meetings. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students, including no use of profanities or obscenities. Comments concerning personnel matters should be directed to the superintendent or board president in writing with your signature. The board president will recognize each speaker and may interrupt, warn, or terminate a speaker's statement that is unrelated to the business of the school district, inappropriate for K-12 students, or disruptive to an orderly, civil, and productive meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Our first speaker is Claire Spiller.
It's Claire. I am a 4th grader. My parents have shared with me that this board has been so focused on book policies and academics that you may not be aware of what's actually happening in our amazing schools. Let me share a little about my school, Woodman Roberts. We recently opened a new STEAM lab, and our school's robotics club had multiple teams attend the state competition in Denver. I was lucky to be on one of those teams, led by our incredible teacher, Mrs. Leach, and many parent volunteers. We won several awards. Also, we had a partnership with UCCS where student teachers spend months at a time in our schools. I am thrilled to have that extra help in my classroom with Miss Sibley, who has helped me on my reading growth. Last, I want to share about how excited I am for the upcoming overnight field trip to Denver Museum of Nature and Science in May. I can't wait. Thank you.
Next is William Swavell.
Ms. Cortez, can we baseball style this?
I forgot. Okay, so William Swavell will go, and then our next 2 coming up are Sarah Spiller and Ivy Lou. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you. Superintendent Haber, I just wanted to pair what you said. Okay. I apologize. I'll move this forward. I just wanted to pair what you said. Thank you to the board for everything you guys have done. I know there's been a lot of negative comments lately, but I want to, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. Specifically to Derek, I know I've watched the board meetings the last couple weeks, the last couple times that you've been on, and it's pretty sad what people have been doing, speaking out against you. It's horrific. So what I want to do is keep this short and show you how many people actually support you here in this group right here. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Next is Sarah Spiller.
Order, please. Please have a seat. Thank you.
Next is Sarah Spiller, and then we have Ivy Liu, and then Catherine Chukas.
I'm here today regarding the Library Committee agenda item. While discussions of such importance are critical for our evolving public education system, what troubles me is the lack of communication and inclusion of our dedicated educators and librarians in this process. It is both disappointing and insulting that an entire implementation plan has been established without considering the voices and perspectives of those who work tirelessly to provide our students with knowledge and resources. Our educators and librarians are the backbone of our schools, and their insights are invaluable in shaping these policies. The infographic attached to tonight's meeting agenda has never been seen by middle school librarians, even though this affects them the greatest. A committee consisting of a 4-to-1 ratio parent to staff and no librarians shows how little you value their education and expertise. The priorities of this cabinet and board are perplexing, to say at the least. For the last 2 years, individuals have stepped up to this podium attempting to educate parents on existing policies and their existing parental rights and the ability to opt out of mature content, create checkout only approved books, or completely ban your student from visiting school libraries. Why? Because the district has failed in its duty to adequately inform the community. Additionally, the board itself is misinformed about what is and isn't in our middle school libraries, even though the information is readily available via the Follett Destiny system. This is willful ignorance at best, weaponized incontinence at worst. Furthermore, you are now using BookLook's website, a far-right Moms for Liberty resource, to drive this process. We've witnessed our teachers, librarians, and schools come under attack due to what appears to be deliberate misinformation perpetuated by many of you, those elected to represent them. It has been made clear tonight that this process is a sham.
Next, we have Ivy Liu, followed by Catherine Chukas, and then our final speaker for this section is Charlotte Johnson.
Hello, my name is Ivy Liu, and I'm actually a homeowner in this district and a taxpayer. 17 months ago, Derek Wilburn came to D49 and spoke in support of our CRT ban. I'm here to return the favor. I'm here to encourage you, because since you get paid so much. I see a board with a 5-0 majority that genuinely represents the majority of the community, and I'm envious, and I'm excited for you. 5-0. Your district has the potential to become the model for returning our educational system to the values of our founding fathers. Time gets tough. You'll have tough times on this board, but remember, you took an oath to uphold the Constitution of Colorado, but most importantly, the Constitution of the United States. That is your guiding light. I know you get a text, but you know what? Put on your armor of God and let them ping off of that armor. It is impenetrable. Make your decisions based on what is right, what is constitutional, and what honors the kids and the parents, not by how many attacks you get and whether you should back off. Go with your integrity and your honor. That is what I encourage you to do. Ben Rush, father of education in America, says, mothers and schools plant the seeds of nearly all the good and evil which exists in this world. Always protect your children. Always choose good for your children and protect them. Stand between them and the evil that's coming in to our country. Thank you.
Next is Catherine Chukas.
My name is Catherine Chukas. I live in the district. I'm an Air Academy parent, SAC parent chair. Animals are causing a challenge on our icy streets on the west side, and those animals are wild turkeys. They travel in a group, which I guess is known as a gang or a posse. Per Colonel Stallworth, I don't think the DBIDS cards are a challenge for Air Academy families. We get drilled on that from the day we register, but expect that transition in April and May for our 8th grade families to be really, that's going to be what the challenge is. There's a lot of people coming in to be part of clubs, activities, our nationally ranked cross-country team. They all start in April and May, and maybe there's a way for them to enroll in DBIDS prior to the end of the school year. It used to be that we had to wait till the last day of school to enroll in DBIDS. About item 11A, please recall this is one of 4 times a year you're getting a detailed update from Ms. Allen, and I suggest you use this time wisely. Personally, I think there's several things to note. These specific fund balances don't have wiggle room to find a recurring $35 million for the needs identified last year, maintenance of D20 facilities and raising teacher pay. And as many of you recall, maintenance of facilities is a really big deal. If you have trouble understanding that there isn't $35 million extra on a recurring basis, then ask. Ask those questions publicly in this forum. Last week, stakeholders in the district spent hours asking these questions and understanding more details of school finance. I attended the parent sounding board where there was a lot of sophistication in questions. It was amazing. You should have sophisticated questions about where the $35 million on a recurring basis is coming from. This year, late in June, you'll have the opportunity to reassess if there's a recurring $35 million after the School Finance Act is passed and after the board approves the detailed budget. Late in June is going to be a perfect time to consider when to do the MLO initiative for voters to react to. Is it in November 2024 or April 2025? And that should be your decision. Not whether to do an MLO vote, but when to do it. This should be a significant effort to decide, and you should publicly share your rationale. The former board president spent about 25.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Final speaker is Charlotte Johnson.
Let's start with some basics from the American Library Association. Libraries and librarians and governing bodies should maintain that parents, and only parents, have the right and the responsibility to restrict the access of their children, and only their children, to library resources. Censorship by librarians of constitutionally protected speech, whether for protection or for any other reason, violates the First Amendment. We must ensure that any committee we create doesn't violate the First Amendment rights of parents and students. The proposal published before the meeting states that the committee will include people with various perspectives. Is this enough to ensure that books won't be censored with respect to viewpoint as opposed to age appropriateness? As this goes ahead, I urge you to be completely transparent in all aspects. This will show your staff that their voices matter and that you value their profession. That is, these are the professionals who've been formally trained to do what you're setting out to do. It will show if you are dedicated to impartiality and representing all students and viewpoints, shaping the culture of belonging. Additionally, Colorado Senate Bill 24-049 regarding review of challenge content in libraries was introduced last week and has overwhelming support. The formation of a library review committee in D20 should consider whether it will be in compliance when this law passes, specifically ensuring that the committee makeup includes representation from all of the required stakeholder groups outlined in the bill, ensuring that ensuring that 3 parent committee members represent minority groups as a commitment to including diverse perspectives. Let's not open this district to more time wasting in the form of continuing attacks from nationwide political groups or in the form of defending lawsuits about First Amendment violations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I also actually had the bill up so I could actually talk about that for just a second. I don't know if everyone is aware about Senate Bill 24-049. It is currently in process and has a lot of implications on how this district and districts across the state, both school libraries and public libraries, will have to interact with challenges and whatnot. So if you haven't seen it, feel free to take a look. It's on the legislative website, but that's something that we will be monitoring as we move forward to make sure that we are in compliance and that we are moving forward in the best possible way that we can. So I know a lot of people are here around the library policies and the committees, and so I wanted to bring up that there is state legislation that will likely impact what we're trying to do here, and so wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. At this point, we're going to take a 7-minute recess. Thank you. All right. We need a motion to approve Resolution 31-24 mid-year budget update for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Moved.
Second.
Discussion, please, Superintendent Haber.
Would Miss Becky Allen, Chief Financial Officer, please come to the podium?
Hopefully this playoff games goes better than the Eagles
I
did.
hope so. Yes, I hope it goes better than the Eagles wild card game. It really has to, I think. All right, so we're going to just go over to the mid-year budget presentation, and you can go to the first slide. Oh, it's me. I'm all, Eagles are better, doing better than I am at this point. Okay.
It's how you finish.
Okay,
So
thank you. All right, so what is the mid-year budget? Well, the board approves or adopts the budget in June, and we have a lot of variables, best guesses at that point. How many students will we have? We make a projection. What the per pupil revenue is, we make a projection. What our ending unassigned fund balances from last year are going to be. And certainly we already have 6 months of activity, and it can't be perfect to what we had in the budget. So the state gives us this opportunity in January. We have to do this by January 31st to present a mid-year budget and ask the board to adopt it. So we can true up some of these values that we've been now seeing that we've got the real numbers. So it's time to really finalize our budget, fine tune it more as we go into the second half of the year. When you take a look at this chart, you see all of our funds there. We mainly talk about the general fund, but you can see the list of funds that are there, and you see special revenue funds as an example. That's our food service fund, designated purpose grants. We've talked about that. School activity fund, transportation fund. These are examples of funds where particular revenue is collected and it can only be spent on specific purposes. And we have other ones around our bonds, around our building fund, cap reserve, technology. So really a variety. In that second column from the left, you see the adopted budget, and to the right of that, you see the changes. When something has parentheses in it, I just always remind myself it's reduced. So that's a reduction in that amount. No parentheses, it's positive, it's an increase. Most of these changes are due to the fact that the unassigned fund balance or the balance for that particular fund was higher or maybe a little lower than what we had in our budget. That's the main purposes for those changes. And when you look at the lower right, you get a sense of the scope of our budget. It exceeds $600 million through all of our funds. So let's start with, we talked about one of the big pieces is, how did our ending fund balances shake out? So this is that true up. And I'm going to just highlight two things. Again, I'm just providing highlights. If there's something in particular you'd like to ask about, please don't hesitate. If you take a look in that kind of yellowy line, that's our Tabor reserve. And when you move to the right, you see a reduction. Tabor requires us to put 3% of our revenue aside. And Kathy Watts, the Director for Budget and Finance, she's the reason we were able to reduce this amount in our Tabor reserve. The money that we get for charters comes to us. We were pulling out 3% and putting it into our Tabor. We were giving the full amount, less the 3% to the charters. They're also doing the 3%. She had a light bulb and said, we don't both need to do it. That's a charter responsibility. For that, we were able to save almost $1.1 million from that Tabor reserve. She's gone on and shared that with other CFOs, and some of them are really happy to hear that. Also, the other big piece on this is what I mentioned in my monthly report. The unassigned reserve in our general fund is 10 million higher than what was in our budget. Our budget showed about 29.2 million. You can see it's about 10.1 million. Why? A big piece, at what was brought up by Kim McClellan during the New Summit Charter Academy presentation, was investment income. It was $1.7 million higher than budgeted last year. Our Tabor was less, that gives us more in our unassigned fund balance. And then we just had a general reduction in expenses over budget by about a little over $6 million. Next, I'd like to just talk about some of the changes in revenue. Now, the first set, I'm going to load these up here. Okay, I think that's all of them. One more. Okay, I think it's all there. If you take a look in the green, it's complicated. There's 4 different green lines. All together, those dollar amounts shake out to be total program funding. Remember, that's a combination of local property taxes and state share that funds on a per pupil revenue basis our students' our operations. If you add all of those numbers up, it's a net increase of a little over $500,000. How did we get that? If you look at the bottom, you'll see the purple boxes. First of all, our per pupil revenue went up $50 from what we originally had. This just came out in January and late December that this was happening. So now the new budget reflects that increase. In fact, since I've submitted this, we found out it's going to go up $5 more. That's not in here. It's about $139,000 more. So our PPR went up. And that's a good thing. You know why? Because our enrollment did not meet projections. Just like you heard at New Summit, our enrollment is flat. If you can believe the number, this is the truth. Last year, 26,607 students. This year, 26,607 students. You think it's a typo, but it's not. It really is true. With that, it does not necessarily mean that we are declining in enrollment. We're flat. But in our budget, we estimated having about 202 additional students over what we have now. So that's a reduction in revenue. Basically, increased money from per pupil revenue, decreased money because less students than projected, plus CDE looks at your enrollment over multiple years, and they will often do what's called multi-year averaging. You never get stuck with an average that's going to hurt you, but it increases your student count. So those 3 pieces really put us at about $507,000 in the positive for our overall revenue. Some other items on here in blue, you see the interest earnings for this year. And you'll notice it's in the non-recurring column. What does that mean? I don't expect getting that 1.7 million year after year. I'd love it, but that we can't plan that way. So it's just a one-time piece. Whereas the others under recurring are ones we expect year after year after year. What you'll see in the yellow is adjust sped revenue. And I want to explain a little bit about this just to give you insight into the conservative budgeting approach that we use. So last year, April, May, we're hearing rumors that the ECEA, that is the state special education funding, we're going to increase. But I had nothing on paper, so we didn't plan for it because I don't want to plan for revenue that is not going to come true. Well, it came true. And so we're making the adjustment now, about $960,000 increase, but we want to be patient and make sure that those things are really going to happen. Finally, I want to mention in the gray box, it says advertising revenue for a video scoreboard, $92,000. Let me explain what this is. So I've got a visual here for you, and Ron Alexander is doing a great job. Ron, Director for Athletics and Activities. And what I really appreciate about Ron is he realizes that our budget is tight, our resources are tight. Not complaining, but the MLO didn't pass. We're 178 out of 178. These are reality checks. And so he is being creative. The current scoreboard is on the left. We've got 2 of those scoreboards at the District 20 Stadium at Liberty. They both need replacement. To replace both is about $100,000. An alternative that's creative, Ron has been working with a company that puts in the types of scoreboards, it's Daktronics is the name of the company, that you see on the right. How would we fund this? Because this is over $400,000. They work with Ron to find community partners that would agree to advertise on this particular scoreboard. 5 donors at $20,000 apiece for 5 years. If we are able to get those donors and make those partnerships, that would pay for the 5-year lease for this scoreboard. And at the end of the 5 years, we have it and we owned it for free. And we can continue with the advertising and keep that revenue. The good news is we have no commitment. If the 5 sponsors don't come through, then we simply don't move forward. But this is a scoreboard now at our RA. Allison does such a great job. Now we've got scoreboards and audio. This is a great CTE opportunity for students to learn about audio visual. And so again, I applaud Ron being so creative on this. And that is really what this line is about. Ron is going to go out and do this work. A committee will be formed to go ahead and just help decide on the advertisers, and that's a way that we can bring some additional technology that many other school districts have. And it's a good pilot. If it works well, then maybe we can have these scoreboards elsewhere too. Now let's look at some expenditure adjustments. These are the money going out. Just a few adjustments I'd like to bring to your attention. Okay. All right. In green towards the top, we reduced our salary and benefit budget by about $500,000. Again, we're very conservative in our budgeting. We budget for people to have $78,000 for a teacher salary and benefits. Some are lower. We budget for every position filled every day. That doesn't always happen. So that's that adjustment. In blue, you see that our concurrent enrollment is excelling. We have 583 more students than anticipated. However, we do shoulder those costs. So this is showing that we have an increase in those concurrent enrollment costs for our students. In the gray line, you see us spending now the money that we hope Ron is able to bring in for the scoreboard. And right beneath that gray line, do you see adjust for additional election fees? And it's non-recurring. That is the item Mrs. Shandy highlighted for you in her board budget presentation. Since we know the election fees are more than what they were projected to be because we don't get a firm number, this will take care of that. And any of these dollars not spent would just come back to the district unassigned fund balance. And then finally, I just want to point out to you in the yellow box, we've had higher workers' compensation issues this year. And remember, we have a high deductible. So we are looking at issues that are still carrying over from last year and this year that result in about an $850,000 non-recurring increase in those types of expenses. What I just want to point out for some context, last year, if you were to look at this expenditure sheet, do you know in the non-recurring we had $15 million in expenses? And so it's quite different. It's much more lean now. Another piece now that we're just talking about kind of what was in the past, there's one other one now that I can bring a little bit more context. I need to take the buttons off on that, so I apologize. But last year, you can see that this year, our unassigned fund balance was $10 million higher than anticipated. Last year, it was $16 million higher. So you might be thinking back to some of the things we were able to accomplish in the mid-year budget last year, that we simply, things are too lean right now. We've gotten back to more typical spending following COVID, and we simply don't have as many resources available to us at the mid-year as we did last year. Finally, I'm going to show you the ending fund balance adjustments. Okay. 2 pieces that I'd like to share. So as we look at our budget, last year, $5.5 million was moved as a one-time transfer to the cap reserve. We do not have that this year. Good money management by Mr. Smith. He has a plan this year for the projects that he needs to complete within his current cap reserve budget. So in blue, we are happy to be able to put $6.6 million into the PSMIP reserve. Remember, that is the reserve to pay for Doug Valley and Air Academy, the 20% match. Our estimate is it will be 11.3 million to pay for Doug Valley. This will put us at 9.3 million. So we will only be $2 million away without debt, without any of those pieces. So Brett, thank you for your wise management, because that's the only way that that would have been able to be possible. The unassigned fund balance is in pink. We are saying our projection, it will be 32.5 million at the end of the year. Let's get context. Where that comes down to is, by board policy, our unassigned fund balance in the general fund must be between 4 and 12% of last year's expenditures. This proposal puts it at 11%. That is the same exact percentage I provided in last year's mid-year budget as well, exactly 11%. Now, we think it's just very important. I want to be mindful of my time. I want to just go ahead and give you an update looking ahead and then take any questions. So our feet right now are in two worlds. Just like principals are often, they're in the current year and they're already prepping for the next year, and so are we here at the EAC. So let's just take a look at the top. In November, Governor Polis put out a preliminary budget request, and it would put our per pupil revenue next year about $610 higher than what's in the mid-year budget right now. Now, we've heard the fact that Governor Polis would like to eliminate the budget stabilization factor. And you know that our factor this year is 4.1 million. It's important for me to share that this increase in that first bullet reflects inflationary increases and the budget stabilization. So it wipeout. So it's not just we get that increase in PPR plus another 4 million. It is all packaged, and that equates to about $13.6 million in additional revenue next year if this were to come through for charters and non-charters. Now, I always tell folks, it's corny, but I say if you're going to write this down, write it in pencil, don't put it in a Sharpie, because it is now in the hands of the legislative body. And I feel confident to say it will change. We don't know up, down, but I've never seen it stay the same as we get to the legislative session. Now let's talk about one other piece, which is at the bottom. Senate Bill 23-287 is the Public School Finance Act from last year. And in it, it said, look, we're going to have a task force to look at the School Finance Act formula. That's the formula that spits out the per pupil revenue for all 178 school districts in the state. We just got a run this week from our alliance, which is our lobbying efforts. District 20, unfortunately, is on a total list of 13 districts. We are one of those, with having a reduction in funding from what the governor said based on this new finance formula, this recommended finance formula. In fact, in comparison and to the 13.6 million, we'd only have a $2 million increase. Please keep in mind, context, $2 million is 1% salary increase. It doesn't take into account any of the other new expenses we have next year. What's important for you to know is Superintendent Haberer is all over it. Yesterday, she's already spoken with Representative Lundeen, Representative Watson, Representative Pugliese about these concerns. We've communicated via email to say that this would be catastrophic to District 20, especially the fact that we have the lowest per pupil revenue in the state. To also shoulder this large of a decrease is simply not something that's equitable. It's not fair to our students, our community, our staff. We don't know if there'll be a hold harmless. We've made some recommendations about what can be done. You have some talking points at your desk on a sheet of paper. Should you need them for any reason, it just gives you an overview of some things that you can share. And at the very bottom, there's a suggested alternative that you might want to share if you have the opportunity to do so. I would thank you in advance for any of your help with that. So that brings me to my last slide, and I just wanted to address two other questions that were sent to me before I take any other questions that you may have. The first one is, if you look on page 9 of your mid-year budget packet, you will see towards the top that we spend about 73.4%, around 74% of our budget on what's called instructional and support services. The question was, does this include administrators? There's about $231 million in that section, and about 3.2 million funds administrators in learning services and college and career services. The other question that I got was around our school lunch fund, right? How do we pay for our lunches? If you recall, Proposition FF passed, and that means all students in the state of Colorado will receive a free meal. Now, my son is just in elementary school, so he only has access to that. In middle school, he's going to be asking me for a slushie and those other things that you get at middle school. Now, if a student buys a slushie, that's not part of the national school lunch program. So these are our typical school lunches. We do not pay anything from the general fund to support that. Anything for free and reduced lunch, we have dollars that come in from the federal government, and then the state also funds the other portion. So we do not have any general fund expenditures. If a student buys a slushie, they pay for the slushie, and that is what is going to Sodexo, our food service provider, to go ahead and provide that particular food or whatever else might be an a la carte, a bag of chips or something like that. Now, the one expense that we would incur is, for example, Pine Creek High School is looking to add the National School Lunch Program next year. They need some outfitting in their kitchen. We would typically use fund balance out of our food service fund to pay for that. But because they have not participated in the National School Lunch Program, the capital reserve will pay for those kitchen remodels. We're not allowed to use that yet. So that's really the only expense. Any questions for me?
Mr. Wilburn?
Thank you, Mrs. Allen. I missed this. Did the workers' comp number of about 850K, did you say that was on the annum or was that the increase?
It's not it is an increase in the payments, not in our premium rate. It's just the increase in the number of incidents that we've had and the money that we have to pay out because our deductible's pretty high.
So 850 is the increase.
It's the one-time increase to reflect the additional issues that we've had. Yes.
It's a big number. Is there anything to attribute that to? More ice storms? I mean, what do we?
It's a variety of things. Pete Ristig is our director for risk management. And what I appreciate about him is whenever we have an incident like this, there's a root cause analysis done. He works with the principal to try to understand the root cause and have it not remedied again. We have slips, we have falls. Sometimes it's not using a ladder safely. Sometimes it's been a few cardboard boxes stacked up to reach something high instead of a ladder. So, and it is increases that we've seen more activity over the last several years, and there are some large cases that started last year and are still climbing over into this year.
Okay. The 960,000 SPED dollars that you had previously not included because you weren't sure if it was going to show up, but now you feel confident that it will.
Yes.
How, when, and where does that money actually show up?
We already started to get that revenue earlier in the year, but since it's after the adopted budget, picture like I can't get it into the book.
Okay.
This is my chance to put it into the book. And then those dollars will help offset the about $20 million of general fund dollars that we have to put in to support special education, in addition to the federal and state funding.
Okay. You'd mentioned our investment income is up.
Yes.
That's good. And this is maybe rookie syndrome on my part. I assume we're in reasonably conservative vehicles with a relatively low yield. Where can we go to get a look at that portfolio?
The two particular places that we put our money are called CSIP.
Okay.
It's CSIP, just as an acronym. And the other is COLO Trust, COLO, like a big C for Colorado, Trust. And those are the two places that we place, safe types of dollar amounts. and we're able to monitor those investments. And they're typically used by school districts across the state.
So College Trust is just a funds manager,
Yes,
and then
it's,
they're deciding what
it is
vehicles.
called the fund. It's the fund, the Colo Trust and the CSIP.
Okay. And last for me is for the PISMIP. I assume that's starts as a trickle and becomes a flood. So we first got to do the environmental study, and there's no way to predict what it's going to cost when it's just going to start.
What we did is we assumed at least 2 years of NEPA. These are all these different, it's an environmental study. SHPO looks at the historical preservation, all of those pieces. That could take 2 years before we break ground. So Chris Garnhart, who I've been working with, he's the executive director for the building fund. When I said that our estimate is 11.3 million for design and construction, we escalated those dollars out several years. So we took the price now and gave an inflationary increase for multiple years so that we could have a better predictor of what the cost would be. It'll happen in phases. Our design proposal is with the federal government right now. They are coming out for a 3-day visit in March to see Doug Valley and Air Academy. And then hopefully soon after, we'll find out the outcome of that. Hopefully we'll be awarded to about $3.5 million for design. Once we have that done, then we do an RFP for construction. At that point, if the prices were much higher than when we put our construction proposal in, we could adjust it accordingly. But we tried to predict it with that inflationary escalator in our estimate.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. All right, any other additional discussion before we vote, board? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy?
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn?
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
Aye. Thank you. Ms. Cortez, how many people have signed up to speak during public comment section number 2?
In section 2, we have 8 individuals.
All right, thank you. During this portion of public comment, speakers who are speaking on non-agenda topics, general public comment, will be called to speak in order of their sign-up. If a speaker does not indicate the topic on which they intend to speak, then they will follow in order of their sign-up time those speakers who have indicated a specific general topic on which they will be commenting. The second public comment section will be limited to 60 minutes. Speakers may offer appreciation for or criticism of school operations and programs as concern them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly, as they are personally responsible for any legal consequences attributable to their comments, including claims for defamation. Please keep in mind that students often attend board meetings. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students, including no use of profanities or obscenities. Comments concerning personnel matters should be directed to the superintendent or board president in writing with your signature. The board president will recognize each speaker and may interrupt, warn, or terminate a speaker's statement that is unrelated to the business of the school district, inappropriate for K-12 students, or disruptive to an orderly, civil, and productive meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Our first speaker, and Lori, I apologize, is Lori Gimmelstein. So close. After Lori, our next 2 speakers, we've got Jeannie Rush and then Tim Hoffman.
Hi, my name is Lori Gimmelstein, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to come down to D20. I'm traveling across the state to multiple Board of Education meetings in the 178 school districts this great state has. And there's just this common thread that we're seeing, and it's this palpable difference of opinion. And, you know, tonight I heard so many great words in the discussion. I heard academics, I heard perseverance, I heard character, I heard win from New Summit Charter School. And I'm here to challenge everybody in the D20 community to remember and respect that each one of you are people. And just because we have diversity of thought does not mean we have to be confronted with anger and hate. And that's when, at the beginning, when I came in here, I felt, wow, this is really positive. This is great. It's one of the best board meetings I've been to. And then we went to public comment. And I'm going to be quite honest. Everybody has differences of opinion, and that's good. That's what makes our country so great, because we can have that. And so when we got to public comment, the feeling of anger was palpable in this room. And I know that there's been a board switch, and maybe before this new board came in, the anger was stronger on one side than the other. We as a community have to recognize and understand that we have differences, and we have to be able to have great conversations. And one of the things that I saw tonight that we haven't seen with the prior board was this solution, an option, this library committee. And I think that's fantastic. And we heard some really great feedback during first public comment. And I think that it would be great for you to incorporate that, to have a librarian, to have some teachers. I ask all of you to stop speaking in labels, start speaking in sentences and principles. And
Next is Jeannie Rush. Jeannie will be followed by Tim Hoffman, and then next on deck after that is Robin Patterson.
Ms. Rush, can you hand that to the security officer? Oh, thank you, Buck.
Sorry, old lady here. Okay, my name is Jeannie Rush. I'm a grandparent, a great-grandparent. I have kids in both D20 and D49. I live in D20. If you all remember a book called The Emperor Has No Clothes or 1984, because I recommend if anybody doesn't know that you should read it. I've given you all a package. I've also emailed, I think about a week and a half ago, there was a letter to Michael Allen, the petition, in which it had from Dr. Sawvell and the other groups, the list of books in different school districts, because someone was asking, is this in this school? Is this in that school? I know you have a really tough job here, but I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out if a book is going to rape your child's mind or body because of implications in the book that indoctrinates them from K to 12 to where harm is done to them. I'm a proponent as a grandmother of don't touch children's minds or bodies until they are adults and let them make their own choice. Every book that you're looking at needs to be in the lens of who is being harmed. I took a letter to the city council with a naked man in the back at a drag show that was family friendly. If you were in the workplace, that man would be sued. If it was a massage parlor, they'd shut it down. Well, shut down the books that are raping our children. Please don't think I'm nuts. Just protect the kids, because that's all that matters, and get the Marxists out of America.
Our next speaker is Tim Hoffman. Tim will be followed by Robin Patterson and then Laura Matisek.
I'd like to open with a quote from one of my favorite poets, the late, great Earl Simmons. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. My background in royalties, artist rights, film streaming, and distribution leads to my concern I have tonight, which is around plagiarism. In March of 2022, I wrote a poem that was performed in public with my permission. Shortly afterwards, I was alerted that a YouTuber I'd never heard of was not only performing my poetry, but doing so in a negative, denigrating fashion with an attempt to monetize. When YouTube removed that recording, this podcaster said this to YouTube, and I quote, "There's no question that Mr. Hoffman does not own the copyright to the poem because I do. Case number 112925612551 with the U.S. Copyright Office is my claim of copyright on this work. The official U.S. Copyright Office has no record of any copyrights presently owned or ever owned by Tim Hoffman. Likewise, searches using his known pseudonyms produce no records, nor do searches using his known address. Mr. Hoffman has not produced any valid claim to copyright ownership because he cannot." End quote. I understand that Boolean searching can be complicated, but a simple search using my government name and my actual home address would have returned case 11261739461 filed in March, at least a week prior to that YouTuber's claim. That case is tied to the approved registration TXU2312232 of a poem entitled Board with the Board, the poem I wrote and gave permission to be recited here at this podium. What's my real concern? In this world of artificial intelligence where students have render engines at their disposal, who is shaping and guiding the character, integrity, and morals it takes to use those tools properly? I'm concerned. The YouTuber I mentioned, the one willing to lie to the public, lie to a billion-dollar streaming platform, lie to the US government, and lie to themselves regarding IP ownership, now sits on this board. If they willingly, boldly, and unabashedly lie like that, can they truly lead and model character? Are they our North Star? I doubt it. 2 minutes is not near enough time to unwrap this important concern and issue, so most of you will receive further documentation with a timeline and communication tonight so you can know who it is you actually work with. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Robin Patterson, followed by Laura Matisik, and then Beth Hodgson.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Robin Patterson, president of Pornography is Not Education, or PINE. We're a national nonprofit dedicated to ensuring that school children have a safe and nurturing learning environment. This would include ensuring that school classrooms and libraries do not direct students to pornographic content or adult advertising. And I would also add that this is important for high school students as well as middle school students. They do start at age 14. Schools have a responsibility to ensure that teaching materials and library support media are academically sound, and to allow age-inappropriate media or advertising into classrooms or libraries is in fact to facilitate the sexual grooming and exploitation of young students. Such content in school libraries, including that which normalizes violence, directly cultivates a school culture that grooms children for predation and trafficking. PINE stands in support of School Board Member Derek Wilburn and the board, and your efforts to remove obscene and age-inappropriate material from school resources. And we encourage all adults in the room to stand up for child safety and dignity. I would like to offer this Board of Education my services as a consultant. PINE is here to help D20. Thank you.
Next, we have Laura Matisik, followed by Beth Hodgson, and then Karen Guevara.
Superintendent Haber, I'm disappointed you have not made time to address my formal grievances, but you have made a video praising this newly elected board who has done very little to nothing except violate our First Amendment right to speech. As a resident, active duty military spouse, and parent in this district, I will not be silenced or ignored. So if the fragility of board members is too much, they can excuse themselves instead of violating our rights. This is morally despicable considering that this board ran on a platform of so-called parental rights and choice. It is un-American, and I will fiercely stand up to protect everyone's right to free speech, even when I disagree with them. The board took an oath to serve all people in the district, and that includes individuals you dislike. Your feelings or being offended are not protected under the law. Decorum rules do not supersede the law. You can't police what people say during these public comments. The campaign managers for board members Wilburn and Shandy stated that you personally sought her out after August 17th board meeting to say you agreed it was inappropriate for teachers to ask about pronouns, which is what prompted your ambiguous and low-key bigoted memo to go out to all schools on Friday, August 18th. Is this true, or is this true, or are you saying that all school staff should respectfully refer to a student's pronoun when made aware of it? Who is lying here? I also previously requested that Wilburn not be permitted to oversee my child's school in any board capacity and role. On his public podcast, he attacked my husband, who is an active duty and well-decorated service member. Wilburn lacks integrity and ethics as shown in these Discord chats that you have, where he incited violence against my family by saying, quote, "Bless him, Lord, with a brick. If something horrible were to happen, fill in the blank, Rogers, Matisek, Hoff, my response would be less than Christ-like," unquote. I filed the police report and provided you with the details. I demand confirmation from you that he will not be permitted to oversee or visit any school that my daughter attends in this district. This board needs to toughen up or resign, because if you cannot handle the heat, buckle up, because it's only about to get hotter than hell.
Next, we have Beth Hodgson, then we'll have Karen Guevara, followed by our final speaker, Bernadette Guthrie.
Hi, my name is Beth Hodgson. I currently have a grade schooler in D20. We decided to choice into this district after lots of conversation about what is best for our family. I'm here tonight to speak about the disregard of our students' achievements demonstrated by this current school board. Having been a part of D20 for the past few years, I have become increasingly aware that our current board does not have the best interests of its students at heart. This became glaringly obvious on a personal level this past Tuesday. This was the night of the awards presentation for the El Paso County PTA Reflections Art Contest. Many students from around El Paso County showed up to be recognized for their amazing art projects, which will go on to be judged at the state level. The theme this year was I Am Hopeful Because. Students used this theme to make artwork in a variety of categories, including visual arts, music, literature, dance, and photography. D20 students made up the majority, 54% to be exact, of the recipients. At the beginning of the presentation, the amazing people who helped make the night possible were recognized. Then they announced school board members that were in attendance. D11 and D49, the other school districts with students recognized, both had board members present. You know who didn't have anyone there? D20. The district with over 20 student artists had zero representation from its board. I know we all live busy lives and sometimes carving out time for things is difficult, but for a board who this week posted a hype video discussing their dedication and passion for our students up for National School Board Month to have no one show up, this shows me and the many other parents and students present that our school board would rather spend time finding ways to silence and ban art they find objectionable than celebrate art made by the talented students in their own district. I am hopeful because school board members serve a finite term. Perhaps in the future we can get it right and elect members who truly care about the accomplishments of our students. I am hopeful because in the next election cycle, I will live in district and I will be able to vote to have true representation.
Our next speaker is Karen Guevara, and Karen will be followed by Bernadette Guthrie.
Good evening. My name is Karen Guevara, and I'm a D20 resident and a parent. I am very concerned about the plan to create education savings accounts discussed by the board during the closed-door executive meeting on January 4th. For those of you who aren't familiar with ESAs, they're another name for school vouchers, and they're dangerous for our public schools. If ESAs are allowed, money will be drained from our high-quality public school district and used to pay for tuition at private religious schools. We moved to Colorado Springs in 2022, bought a house in D20 so that our daughter could attend a good public school. My husband commutes over an hour and a half every day so that our daughter can go to school here. I'm not anti-private school. In fact, our daughter has attended private Christian schools in 3 different states. We paid her tuition because we wanted her to attend those schools. I could never imagine taking public tax money from the local school district to cover her tuition. And while we enjoyed our time at those schools, I can unequivocally say that she is receiving a better education here in D20. Our school district is full of caring and dedicated teachers, staff, and administrators. It's full of schools where all of our kids have access to a high quality education, where teachers meet their students where they are and work hard to get them to where they need to be, and where there are resources for our special education students. I hope everyone is paying attention. ESAs, just like vouchers, sound good on the surface, but they will defund and destroy our school district. Sadly, I'm afraid that might be the goal of this school board.
Our final speaker is Bernadette Guthrie.
I just want to Brett Smith's last board meeting. So Brett has been an amazing steward of D20 for 16 years, and I just thought we could all put our differences aside for a moment to collectively recognize the service he's made to our district.
Could you please restart the clock?
Thank you. I feel the need to address the non-enforceable preamble to public comment tonight. I would encourage everyone listening to familiarize yourself with your rights concerning public comment at government meetings. The Colorado Attorney General's office is a great resource and are now tracking D20 violations, so please let them know if you've been personally affected. Also, slander is to make false and damaging statements about someone. I have never made any false statement from this podium. Mr. Wilburn's violation of my daughter is recorded and on the district's YouTube page. As Ms. Rush said, don't touch children's minds, protect the kids. Don't rape children's minds. Mr. Wilburn raped my child's mind. It's telling that those who claim they care so much about children and their access to appropriate library materials came here today to defend a grown man who traumatized a young child with a non-age appropriate book. It's never been about parental choice, and it's never been about kids for these people. It makes me really uncomfortable to hear so many people here tonight talk about board majorities and sides, especially when we're talking about public education. But since it was brought up, I wanted to read something briefly from your side. This comment was recently posted by Republican Senate candidate Eli Bremer on the Republican meetup page after several people went to a county commissioners meeting to read graphic book passages during their public comment. I question why grown adults would want to read this crap out loud. I don't know most of these folks and can only guess their motives, but I do know that it's not uncommon for sexual deviants to enjoy public displays of lewdness and exhibitionism. So it seems that conclusion has bipartisan support. Thank you.
Superintendent Haber, do you have any clarifications or next steps?
No, I do not.
All right, board. Was our business this evening focused on activities that promote and honor our mission statement, our belief statements, and our global end statement that reminds us that all students will have the knowledge, skills, and character necessary for successful transition to the next level and upon graduation will be fully prepared for success? Did the board hear information tonight that would require the review or revision of any policy? Did the board hear information tonight that would require a new policy? Did the board hear information tonight that the board would like to include on a future agenda? All right. We need a motion that the Board of Education convene an executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-4024F1 to discuss personnel matters related to the superintendent's annual summative evaluation. The board will also confer with an attorney for the board for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to potential litigation pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B. While in executive session, the board will not adopt any proposed policy, resolution, regulation, or take any formal action. Lastly, the Colorado Open Meetings Law does not require the board to make record of the executive session in which the attorney is present and providing legal advice. CRS 24-6-402-2D.52B.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy?
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn?
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
Aye. The executive session will be held in the superintendent's office, and invited to this session are Mrs. Haber, Mrs. Cons, Mr. Salt, Mrs. Shandy, Colonel Stallworth, Mr. Wilburn, and Ms. Yanez. Also invited are Ms. Allison Cortez, Dr. Susan Field, Dr. Jim Smith, and Ms. Tanya Thompson. The regular portion of this meeting is over. We will take a quick break to clear the room and move to the superintendent's office.